Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I am your co-host Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and we are going to be reviewing the Week 13 NFL games. But before we get into that, if this is your first time here to the channel, welcome. Ryan and I, we love doing this. We want to keep growing our community, so hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and also like this video and share this video with your friends and family so we can keep doing this content, keep growing this community. And even as I say that, we're still going to do the content anyways, even if you don't. So I hope you join us. But yeah, Ryan, let's get into Week 13. It was a crazy week, a lot of big games. And it's always like earlier on in the year, we talk about like playoff picture. Like by that, I mean like Week 7. It's like, oh, what can the playoff picture be like? And a lot at that point, like so much can happen. And now at this point, though, when we talk about it, like we can actually now we know enough about all the teams to where it's like, this team is definitely going to be, or has a good chance to win this game, or they can go on a run because their schedule is a lot easier. And we'll get into that. But also at this time of the year, some super costly injuries can happen. And that's what happened to one of the current teams leading the division, San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, breaks his foot. Garoppolo, like just a stalwart at the quarterback position, super consistent, led them to a Super Bowl, 2 NFC championship games over the past 3 years during his time there. And now there's a big unknown, because now they have Brock Purdy as their starting quarterback. What do you think that does to the 49ers? Where do you think they go from here? And do you have any concerns really about their potential?
I mean, I definitely have some concerns. To me, they go back to square one. I mean, this offense had so much complexity to it because Jimmy Garoppolo was able to handle it and make the correct decision. And honestly, like it brings them all the way back to square one. It's a total reset. Brock Purdy is nowhere near as NFL experienced as Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, is my mic on?
I think so. I don't know. I was making sure mine was on. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were doing that as like a sign that my mic was off.
No.
But no, they go back to square one. They lose a lot. Not only do I think he was a locker room leader, but he provided a lot for them on the field. Obviously, like you said, 2 NFC championships, Super Bowl appearance. And so they really like that is a tough injury for a team like that to handle. I don't know. That division gets really close because I think if you break it down, where is the standings here? They were in first place, correct?
Yeah, in their division, they're one game up on Seattle.
And they still play each other once.
Yeah, I think it's not next Thursday. It's not this Thursday, but it's next Thursday's Thursday night game. So that's gonna be a fun one. That will definitely be a fun one.
And they don't have the easiest of schedules coming up. Tampa Bay playing Tom Brady is always tough, even if the Buccaneers suck.
I don't know. So sorry, we'll get into that here. Yeah.
This to me, that defense wins this game. As long as the Buccaneers, or as long as the 49ers offense doesn't give it right back, I think the defense wins that game. And then at Seattle, then they play the Commanders and the Raiders after that, who are all fighting for a wild card spot in their respective divisions. So to me, the Cardinals game is their last game, and that they should win.
They should win that one, but you never know with that Kyler Murray offense. Like if they just go off. Yeah. But I agree. I think it's going to hurt their. I think it's going to hurt some of their potential, but until I see more of it, I'm not too concerned. Just because with the way Brock Purdy handled himself, I think the type of style that they, especially offensively, that they play, which is definitely very run heavy, a lot of checkdowns, being very creative with having Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey in the background. And then just the absolute eliteness of George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk has really come out, and he's had a really good year. I think it allows for someone kind of like Brock Purdy to kind of be a game manager, because that's kind of what Jimmy Garoppolo was. Now he's the best. He's arguably one of the best game managers in the league right now.
He also has the system that plays perfectly into his style.
Absolutely. And I think that style, not saying that Jimmy Garoppolo can be replaced with a rookie, but I think that style, a rookie can come in, or not a rookie, or the guy who is Mr. Irrelevant in a draft can come in and maybe kind of fit in a little seamlessly. He still needs to make the right decisions. Still needs to make good throws. Yes, absolutely. But I still think there's some potential. We'll know a lot more, especially once he gets a full game, and then the team has a full week to prepare against him. So we'll see how Tampa Bay does against him. I still think that defense is elite, but after next week and then going into Seattle, we will know a lot more about Brock Purdy and how this offense fares, on whether or not they can make this run. I don't have an issue. I don't think that they won't miss the playoffs, even if it's just a wild card spot. The issue is going to be how do they do against Cowboys? How do they do against the Vikings? From there, because they're going to have the defense is going to need to consistently keep being elite.
Mm-hmm. So this is a trend that we somewhat see with backup quarterbacks that come in middle, like to late of the season as quarterbacks get hurt. Tyler, what was the Ravens backup quarterback?
Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Huntley. He had a similar thing last year where he came in. He had 2 or 3 really good games, but as teams got more film on him, they started to handle him better and better down the stretch.
Yeah.
And I think we could see a similar situation here with Brock Purdy. The only thing is the tough defenses are at the front end of that. So, like, for example, the Raiders and Cardinals have horrible defenses. And they struggle to game plan for anybody. However, like the Buccaneers are going to go in next week with basically college tape and 20 professional snaps of Brock Purdy.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so the Seahawks will get the Bucs game, and then the Commanders will get the 2 games before that. So for me, his toughest matchup will be the Commanders because that will be the team with the best defense that has the most time to prepare for him. So realistically, like, I think he can come in and kind of game manage, like you said, as long as he doesn't make mistakes. He could go 12 for 14 for 100 yards and a touchdown, and I think the 49ers could go 3-2 through the rest of this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's going to be very interesting to watch, and that's what's crazy about every NFL season is it seems like there's always this team that has a major injury right before the playoffs, and how does that team adapt? And I think the 49ers are the best team that it can happen to because it's just the style of offense that they play and how great their defense is and how well they've been playing. I don't think it's going to impact them nearly as much as if it was so to say, or the, you know what I mean? Because like with the Cowboys, I mean,
sorry, you cut out literally just the 2 team names. I did not hear the 2 team names.
Oh, sorry. So I think it's not going to affect the 49ers as much as it's going to affect a team like the Vikings or the Cowboys. Like, let's look at the Cowboys here. When Dak Prescott was out and Cooper Rush was in, I think that fits in actually exactly to what you said. Cooper Rush played really well in the first couple of games.
Yeah.
Because teams didn't really know too much, didn't know how to compete against them. Yeah. And then his last game, I think against Philadelphia, they absolutely just wiped the floor of him, and he just didn't have a game. Not really just because of his inexperience, but also just because he wasn't at that elite level, and the Eagles knew how to play against him.
Yeah, they also got extremely lucky with their strength of schedule during the Cooper Rush period.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to say they played.
I don't know. They played the Bengals, but they played the Bengals at not a time as they were playing.
No, they were still building. They played the Commanders when they were not good. They played the Giants.
Yeah, but they beat the Giants again later on in the year, so I would still, I wouldn't count that one. Or I wouldn't look too much into that one. And the Rams aren't good.
All of those were 2017, 23-16, 25-10, 22-10. All 4 of those wins with Cooper Rush. That is just that. Those are defensive wins. Those are not Cooper Rush went out and put up four touchdowns. So frankly, I think the 49ers have the defense to do something similar.
Well, that's the thing. So it's like they can go out and do that. It like Jimmy Garoppolo had 4 touchdowns in Mexico City, and that was like last time he'd done that Well, when was the last time? I don't think he's ever done that
Like
before.
2 years ago. He's never had.
So like that's not the style of game that they play. But let's move on though now to another team we mentioned, the Seahawks though, and let's talk about what other teams that they can come in and potentially like could take out the Seahawks or even the Giants as well. Because to me, it's solidified that the Cowboys are in. An awful team from the NFC South is going to come in, and it's looking like. I mean, the Saints are dominating this game right now. We're live right now during the Monday night game, and so it looks like the Saints might actually take hold of the division there.
Well, actually, too many losses.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's true. But I think the Buccaneers will lose. I think the Buccaneers will lose to the 49ers next week. But to me, the Giants look very suspect, especially with their tie to Washington. I think they got lucky. And, man, do I hate ties. We'll have to do another segment on that. But the Seahawks, I think they've proven themselves. I think Geno Smith has had a good year. I think that they're going to jump over the Giants because the Giants and the Commanders have to play again. So, unless they tie again, there's going to be one of those teams is going to be bouncing out. And I think the Lions and the Packers are definitely too far out, and the Falcons are too far out now. So to me, I think the Seahawks are in. I personally think the Seahawks are in. So I think the Giants and Washington, I think one of those teams are going to knock the other out.
Yeah, because they still have to play each other.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to get to the standings here.
No, you're good.
I mean, the other two teams in that division are out. If you look at the conference, there's only two teams that are really competing for a wild card spot. Because like you said, one team from the NFC South is going to get in by default.
Yeah.
And outside of that, you have Detroit at 5-7, and the Packers are 5-8. So that in itself is
So the Packers still even have a game, if I'm not mistaken, a game against the Vikings and the Lions, and I think they'll lose both of those games. So for me, they'll lose at least one of them. So for me, the Packers are out. The Seahawks play the Panthers next week.
They should win.
I'm going to pick them.
Yeah.
Then they host the 49ers on Thursday Night Football. That potentially a win. At the Chiefs, that's going to be a tough one. Host the Jets and then host the Rams. I mean, I think they win at least 3 of those 5 games. That are left.
And that puts them at 10 wins.
Yeah.
10 wins in the NFC is a lock.
That should be.
Spot. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be.
Oh, that's interesting. That division, I mean, I think the 49ers might end up at 11-6. And then the Seahawks could be 10-7. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's some good. It's not like last year where there was just where the NFC was so bad. There's still actually a decent bit of teams.
Yeah, you guys actually will have 6 good teams, and then you'll have a division winner.
The one bad team would just be from the division, which who would have thought that Tampa Bay would be like the worst team coming from the NFC?
Yeah, well, we both had Tampa Bay as our NFC Super Bowl prediction, right?
No, I think we had. Let me look at it. Let me see if I have it here. No, so we both had. No, you had the Rams.
Oh, well, that fell off.
And I had Green Bay.
That fell off too.
Well, yeah. We were both. I was more confident in Philadelphia because I had them going to at least the NFC Championship and losing to Green Bay. But yeah, no. Should almost be everyone's NFC bracket should be close to being busted because no one had Seattle in there. I don't think too many people. I mean, people might have had San Francisco in as a wild card, but I think a lot of people probably would have had the Rams. But it's going to be interesting to see down the stretch because everything else to me is kind of lock. I think Eagles are going to be the 1 seed. I don't really see them losing because with them even beating Minnesota, they have to lose two games. They have a game advantage or 2-game advantage on Minnesota because they need to lose 2 games. So then Minnesota needs to have a better record than them.
Which is not going to happen.
No.
Especially with their remaining schedule.
Yeah. And then the 49ers, I think, are going to keep falling down. I think the 49ers or the NFC West, let's say the NFC West is locked in at the 3 seed. NFC South is for sure the 4 seed.
Yeah.
Cowboys are going to be the 5th seed. And then it's just going to kind of depend between the Seahawks and then I guess the other NFC East team that makes it the Giants or Washington.
Yeah, and they play each other they tied and then they play each other again. Right?
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty sure the Eagles also had to play the Giants and Washington again. So like they both had to play the Eagles again.
No. The Giants have to play the Eagles twice.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that's going to be big actually.
Yeah. One is the Week 18 matchup though. So if like the Eagles win out, they probably will just let that one slide.
If they've already guaranteed the
1 seed, the
1 seed, yeah, probably.
Yeah. So that's an interesting dynamic that's working out there.
Go ahead.
I was going to say another team that I guess technically I think has a shot. They have to win out, but I think they have a winnable schedule. The Lions. They're 5-7 right now, but their next 5 games, they have a tough one on Sunday against the Vikings. But the last time they played, it was 28-24. They lost.
Week 2. Well, it was week 2 as well.
Week 3.
They should have won. Week 3. They should have won that game.
And so, but then Jets, Panthers, Bears, Packers. All very winnable.
Oh, yeah. Especially the Jets, too. I mean, and we're going to talk more about them here in a second, but I'm a little suspect about the Jets. I am not completely sold on Mike White. I think they provides a little bit more of a spark, but I think they're still a little too inconsistent offensively. And so that's what and we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I think the Lions can absolutely exploit that. This Lions offense is legit. Jameson Williams came back. He didn't really provide too much of an impact in the game. They're trying to work him in. I don't think they want to overexert him.
Back. So.
Absolutely. But when he does, I mean, that offense is already elite. And Amon-Ra St. Brown's one of the best receivers. I mean, top 15 receiver in the league now.
Him and Hunter Renfrow, although Hunter Renfrow's on IR, best slot receivers in the league at the moment.
I'm at the top of my head, yeah. I don't know if I'd include Hunter Renfrow in there, but I mean, he's good when healthy. But
Hunter Renfrow was a 1,200-yard receiver last year out of the slot, that's hard to do.
But yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, though, I mean, he has adds so much to that offense, and they haven't, even after trading TJ Hawkinson, have not missed a beat. I would love to see them go on a run and make the playoffs because I would not want to play the Lions in the playoff, especially then too. Like, let's say they make the 7th seed and then they end up having to play Minnesota. That would be, I mean, that would be, they would cause fits. And honestly, that defense is, ever since they fired the secondary coach, they've been getting after it. That defensive line has actually picked up a lot. And the worse and worse the Rams do, they will have a top 5 pick, and if not potentially a top 3 pick. And there's so much speculation around the Lions about who they're going to get. A lot of people are saying that they're going to get a quarterback. I would imagine if they got Will Anderson or Jalen Carter on that for that defensive line,
because that'd be insane. Is a monster.
He's having a year. He's absolutely having a year. So I get, like, I think Jared Goff, I mean, he's not an elite quarterback, but he's definitely above average. He's a top 15 to top 10 quarterback, I think, statistic wise.
Yeah.
You go get a Jalen Carter, you see what Jalen Carter does every Saturday. Like, dude, I mean, that defensive front would be amazing in Detroit. And that's just Jalen Carter. Go look at Will Anderson. Imagine Aiden Hutchinson and Will Anderson coming like from opposite sides. That'd be insane.
That would help the secondary a lot because they'd be able to blitz every time.
Quarterback would have like
a second and a half. Like
quarterback would have like a second and a half. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like we're related or something
I
like
know,
that. We
yeah.
both thought that. So,
There's an echo in here.
but last thing though for the NFC is, so if we agree that Seattle's going to make it, that leaves one spot left.
Mhm.
Which team do you think deserves the final wild card spot between the Giants and Washington or Detroit? And which one do you think is, and which team do you think is most likely to get it?
To me, it's Washington. I think Washington is most likely to get it because New York has to play Philadelphia twice, and I'm not going to bank on the fact that the Eagles are going to take Week 18 off because I think there's a good possibility that Philadelphia might lose a game or two in between now and the end of the season as the playoffs approach, because we've seen that with these like elite teams before. The winning kind of gets to their head. They fall off a little bit. And Philadelphia hasn't necessarily been the world beaters. I know they beat Tennessee 35-10 on Sunday, but they haven't necessarily been the world beaters that they were at the beginning of the year.
What they remind me of, and maybe this is incorrect, if you're in the chat, absolutely tell me I'm wrong, but what they remind me of kind of is like that Georgia Bulldogs offense, where it's normally not anything too flashy, but just at the end of the game, they end up with 30 points or 27 points. And then that defense just suffocates the other team.
To me, that sounds like Alabama, but
maybe, yeah, but this, I mean, we're going now college football now, but it just seems like they just do everything really well. It's not going to be one thing that is amazing. Like the Buffalo offense led by Josh Allen, there's going to be some amazing throws, some amazing offensive plays that come out. Philadelphia seems like they just don't have that. It's just every play is really good.
Yeah.
Just really good. 4 yards.
It's not even
the 4-yard rush, 7-yard out route, 4-yard rush, play action.
I was going to say, it's not even that every play is really good. They don't take negative plays. Like every play is down the field. They don't miss assignments. They just do what they have to do, and then they end up getting it done. And those teams are really hard to beat because they don't beat themselves. They're not going to give you an opening. So that for me is like what Philly is doing. So
yeah, I can agree with that. I definitely think, as much as I would love to see Detroit make it, I think it's definitely a long shot. But I think Washington is going to be the team. I also think that they're just the better team because another knack against New York. They've had so many receiver injuries, and it really is kind of one, if they really want to turn it around, but who's to say he's going to be the same person that we all think he is? But like, they need to go get Odell Beckham Jr. to have a legit receiver threat. But at the same time, I say that no one's seen him practice. No one's seen him work out. And I'm sure he's doing that. But will he be the OBJ that we're used to seeing? You know what I mean? Will he be able to? Probably not. I'm coming off an ACL injury and then coming in well past halfway through the season, so you're not going to get the full guy, and he's going to be on a snap count for the majority of the rest of the season. So they're so hindered in the passing game just because of their injuries, where I think that's going to really hurt them. And I think Washington is a little bit more balanced in that. So
I agree. Also, Washington is the one on the hot streak right now.
That's true. That's very true. Let's move over to the AFC, though, and we started with an NFC injury talking about a team. So let's talk about an AFC injury that is going to be affecting a division leader right now, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson went down. Luckily, as we know of now, didn't tear any ligaments, but does have some ligament sprains. It seems like is going to miss, as what John Harbaugh said, days to weeks at a time. So Tyler Huntley is going to be taking over the reins right now. They're going to be playing against the Steelers, and they have a relatively difficult schedule because, if I'm not mistaken, they still got to play the Bengals next, and they're playing the Pittsburgh team this week that's been playing.
No, they play the Browns. They play the Bengals week 18.
Week 18. That's it. They're playing the Steelers this week. But it's going to be tough, and it's going to be – I'll kind of start out the same thing as what I started out with Jimmy Garoppolo. What concerns does it bring for you for this Baltimore team, and how do you think it affects them moving forward?
this is a much bigger loss than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
They run this offense through Lamar Jackson's ability to run the ball. And Tyler Huntley, while athletic, is not Lamar Jackson. Frankly, nobody is.
No.
You could make an argument that Justin Fields has the same explosiveness, but no quarterback is really having the same impact on games as Lamar Jackson right now because of his ability to run the football.
Yep.
And this offense is designed around him. They don't have Rashad Bateman, I believe. I think he's on IR for the rest of the season.
I think so.
And Mark Andrews has kind of been in and out of the lineup with some injuries here and there this year. Like, they're a pretty banged up team, and to me, they have a tough go of it for the rest of the season. Let me look.
Yeah. No, and the biggest thing.
I was going to say, they have the Steelers twice, who the Steelers they play physical. They have the Browns, Falcons, and Bengals.
So
the other three.
The Steelers beat the Ravens. They had a similar setup, and they beat the Ravens twice late in the season. One time, I'm sure of, was with Tyler Huntley. And the team honestly hasn't changed too much. You can honestly say that the Steelers actually improved because they improved from Ben Roethlisberger to Kenny Pickett, who is much more mobile and adds different dynamic to that offense. Also, they improved from who was the receiver that they improved from Chase Claypool to George Pickens.
Yeah,
which I think everyone can agree that is a big improvement. So this offense has picked up. Has gotten in a rhythm over these past couple weeks. They've won some games. TJ Watt is back. They're a tough team to play against, and we were joking about it before we went live, but like everyone was complaining or was worried about, they're saying, oh, Mike Tomlin's winning record streak is going to come to an end. They're only 2 games back from 500, and they play Ravens this week, Raiders next week, both not next week, 2 weeks from now. They play another team, though, that they can beat. And it's like, they can win those games. They can absolutely win those games.
Yeah.
They could go on a run. And
they have found a way to turn these games, the Panthers, in 2 weeks.
No, that's definitely a winnable game.
But they found ways to turn these games into like smash mouth games. Like the Falcons kind of play that way, but the Falcons are a little bit more spread out. And from what I saw, that game was played in the trenches alone.
Yeah.
For me, one of the biggest things about TJ Watt returning is Alex Highsmith. His first game back, I want to say, with TJ Watt's first game back was, I want to say, the Colts. Is that correct?
No, it might have been the week. No, because it was the Bengals. Because
that's right.
TJ Watt picked Joe Burrow in both those games.
Yeah. It was the Bengals. Alex Highsmith, 2 sacks, 5 tackle for loss, and like 2 passes deflected.
Yeah.
And it's just because he's now getting all these one-on-ones with tackles, and he's winning. And it's, to me, like, that's the exact type of Steeler football that Mike Tomlin wants to play.
Well, and it's one of the things too that plays so well against the Ravens, because the Ravens are a run-first team, and they struggle to pass. So Steelers are going to be able to put more guys into the box, stop that run. Tyler Huntley is not the elite runner like how Lamar Jackson is. And also, who knows who the running back is going to be for the Ravens, because it seems like people are always keep getting hurt. So, and kind of coming back to this what brought this all together, though, is the Ravens. I'm concerned about the Ravens, like, one, winning the division, but also kind of making the playoffs. They're only a game up on the Jets. They're 2 games up on the Patriots, who are on the bubble, on the outside looking in. So
but they have a tiebreaker on the Patriots. So
they do have that, but do they have the tiebreaker on the Chargers or the tiebreaker on the Raiders? You know, or even the Steelers here. Like let's say the Steelers go on a run and the Ravens don't, and the Ravens start to fall because of Lamar Jackson's injury. They can miss the playoffs, just like how they did last year.
They have a better AFC record and conference record than The Chargers and Raiders.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So then there's still some potential.
Yeah.
A lot of games still left to play. See,
But I think all their
where they end
games
up.
are conference or division games left,
Yeah.
except the Falcons. So they have 4 conference games. Actually, they have 4 conference games left, and all 4 of those are division games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 2 against the Steelers, 1 against the Browns and the Bengals, and they're going to
Yeah.
lose to the Bengals because I think then that's speaking in this division. The Bengals now are the team that we thought they
were
should have been earlier on in the year because now that offensive line is playing so well.
They are
Joe
who we thought they
Burrow
were.
is in a totally different rhythm. They are who they thought they were. I mean, the Bengals are going to beat the Ravens. Even if Lamar Jackson was playing whenever the Bengals or Ravens play, the Bengals should win that game.
Yeah.
And I believe it's in Cincinnati also.
Yeah, it is because the other game was in Baltimore earlier this year.
So
and they barely beat the Bengals. I don't know if you already said this, but they barely beat the Bengals,
and they weren't playing well.
And they were not playing well.
Yeah. So the Ravens, to me, are going to be a wild card team, but they better hope that these other teams beneath them don't start playing well because similar to the Steelers, I'm also turning into a big Raiders believer. And there's a big game between the Steelers and the Raiders 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
But there's a big possibility that both teams can break off a 5-game winning streak from this point on.
Yeah.
And go 10-7.
The Raiders have 3 really big games left.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they're all big games because they have to win out to make the playoffs.
Yeah. This is the third round of the playoffs for the Raiders.
So they have the Rams.
Right? We'll talk about that game here shortly.
Yeah.
That's a Thursday night game this week.
And then they have a mini bye into the Patriots, AFC wildcard contender.
That could be a win. Then
Steelers,
that's AFC wildcard. Contender. Yeah.
Yeah. 49ers, they're trying to win their division. And then week 18, Chiefs.
Yeah.
So to me, it progressively gets tougher.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and one of the things too is like the Raiders, I don't know, because I guess it's like depends on how you define a disappointing season. Because, and I mentioned this already, outside of
disappointing.
So outside of the Saints game, like where they got blown out, every other loss has been like a 1-score game. So yes, obviously the results are not there, but just coming in, putting in his new system, Devontae Adams coming in, getting used to that system. You've seen the emergence of Josh Jacobs. Like the potential for next season, I think is there. If they add another hot weapon on the opposite side of Devontae Adams, and also another thing too, Darren Waller's been hurt essentially this entire year. The defense needs to get better. Like that is
I mean
obviously
they will throw draft picks at. Well, they don't have a ton of draft picks, but they will throw draft picks at that defense and offensive line.
Yeah,
the offensive line and the defense as a whole.
Yeah. So what I'm saying though is like, because I guess it depends. Like the Broncos have, the Broncos wish they had a disappointing season. That's how awful the season's been. But it's an absolutely different kind of disappointment, if that makes sense. Like the Raiders don't make it, but you can see a lot of potential that is there. They just a couple plays haven't gone their way throughout the season, and they've blown a couple of games, just like the Cardinals game in week 2. But I think they've pieced it together. They've put together a string of really good wins in a row, and I think that they can continue this winning streak. But it's the same thing though with the Steelers as well. So there's a lot of these teams on the outside looking in that I think have potential, while otherwise the 2 teams that are ahead of them, the Patriots and the Chargers, I'm not as excited about their momentum. Really moving forward. I feel like their momentum's kind of.
Yeah. To me, the Chargers have the worst injuries in the NFL right now. They have completely fallen off. They've lost 2 all-pro linemen. Yeah. They lost Keenan Allen for the majority of the season. Then they just lost Mike Williams, who they just paid a huge contract to this offseason. And then they lost J.C. Jackson, the cornerback they just paid a huge contract to all season.
Yeah.
Derwin James has been in and out of the lineup. Asante Samuel Jr. has been in and out of the lineup. And then that doesn't even get to Joey Bosa missing some time. Kenneth Murray, I think, missed a couple games so far. Like they've had the most starters in the league get injured.
was that like a dozen names that you said?
Yeah, that was close to it.
That was close to a dozen.
Yeah.
I need to go back on what the exact number was.
Consistently, like their star players on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
The only guy who I think has not at least been injured at some point this year, I think, is Austin Eckler. And I'm pretty sure he's played through some things. I know Justin Herbert had his ribs in Kansas City.
The fractured cartilage or something like that. Which I never even heard of before.
He like tore the cartilage in his ribs. Which just sounds
I forgot about that.
Atrociously painful.
Just breathing.
Yeah.
Like every time you breathe, just hold your breath.
Yeah.
Just hold your breath for as long as you can. Yeah. Like, so the Chargers, and that's what's interesting too, because then if the Chargers don't make it, I guess it's a different kind of philosophical question on like what defines a disappointing season. Because then if the Chargers don't make it, the Raiders don't make it, the Broncos don't make it, they've all had disappointing seasons for three completely different reasons. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And so, but that being said, I just don't think the Chargers can make it. I just don't think there's enough there. Also, they have a tough remaining schedule as well. Because
what about the Jets?
So that's what's going to be the next one I talk about here. And so the Jets, I'm not sold on the Jets. And I kind of previewed this earlier on. I think Mike White maybe provides a little bit more of a throwing spark on offense. But that being said, though, I don't know if it's consistent enough to kind of keep up with some of these teams. And I need to look at their schedule again. But they have a decently difficult schedule as well, because don't they have to play Buffalo?
Right, they're at Buffalo this weekend. And then next weekend, they're Lions at home, Jags at home on Thursday night.
At Seahawks.
At Dolphins.
I mean, if I'm being honest, the easiest game for them is Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's not going to be a pushover. It's not like going to be playing against the Texans. They could absolutely show up. And so, I just think I can maybe see them winning 3 of those games. But even then when they play the Dolphins, I think it's going to be tough. So, But then I guess that we're saying this now is like, so who's going to be that 7th seeded team? Because
I think it's not 3-horse race. I guess maybe a 4-horse race.
Okay.
I am not sold on Pittsburgh. Let me go back to their schedule. There are a couple games that I think they're really going to struggle with. The Ravens twice, and then the Browns in Week 18 with Deshaun Watson. And they pretty much have to win out.
Well, yeah. So that's the thing, that the Raiders and the Steelers have to win out.
Yeah. So the Patriots have the tiebreaker over them. The Jets have the tiebreaker over them. And they didn't play the Chargers or Raiders.
Yeah.
So for me, they have to win out, because I think if the Jets are in the race for the 7th seed and they're not in the wild card, if they're not the 6th seed, which I have a feeling they will be after this weekend, that puts the Steelers in a really tough spot, because then they have to hope the Jets don't win 2 more games and the Patriots don't win 3 more games.
Yeah,
pretty much. So it's a tough road for the Steelers and the Raiders, in my opinion. And I know they're only a game back, but at this point in the season, that game makes a big difference.
Well, and one of those games they play against each other, so one of those teams is essentially going to be eliminated after that point. And for me personally, I was just thinking about it with the veteran experience. I almost would kind of have to lean towards the Raiders a little bit in that game. With the Patriots, you guys play the Cardinals on Monday night, but then you guys have a tough schedule. You got Raiders, Bengals, Miami, Bills.
Yeah,
I mean, those are 4 tough games.
Okay, so here's my thing with the Patriots. They can beat anybody, but they can also lose to anybody. You just never know, who's going to show up for them. Their coaching staff is the craziest thing. under a Belichick-led team, but their coaching staff is horrid. Specifically, their offensive coaching staff. Matt Patricia was a bad defensive coordinator, and then you put him in charge of your offense. They don't run the offense correctly. It is not run detail-oriented. If you have time, Kurt Warner actually did an hour-long breakdown of the Patriots offense against the Vikings, which as the football nerd that I am, I watched it all. He breaks down everything. And to me, that was the Patriots' best offensive game this year. And Kurt Warner is still bashing it for how bad it is.
Yeah.
Because he's like, if you're going to run simple concepts, you have to do the small things correct. And it's like, they don't. They're running double digs with receivers 6 yards apart. And I'm like, there's no window there to throw a ball to the guy, to a guy who, you have the first one clear it out, the second guy come in and you hit him. And it's like, there's no window there because they're right on top of each other. And so the Patriots just don't do the little things right. And so I think they have a road to the playoffs. I don't think they do it. I think they pick 15th again.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Because it's interesting, too, to hear you say that because we just talked about the top. We talked about the Jets, Patriots, and Chargers, who are the 7th, 8th, and 9th teams right now in the AFC. And we're not confident. We don't like how those teams are playing. But we also feel like the teams who are playing hot, who I think are now kind of maybe arguably the objectively better team at the moment right now, the Raiders and the Steelers. They're both 5-7, so they're really far behind. They need a lot to happen to go their way and to win out, at the same time for them to make it to that point. So I agree. I don't think the Patriots are that good. I think it's not even like I wasn't surprised that they lost to Buffalo, but man, they just looked like awful football. Like it just was awful, like a team that didn't know what they were doing.
Because I don't think they do. That's my biggest issue is like I think that we are at week 13 and the Patriots are still running very basic concepts that we can't get the small details on right because I think Bill Belichick wants to run a simple, like easy to run offense. However, like the message just is not being communicated all the way down to.
Why do you want to run? Again, the NFL is the highest level of football ever, and why do you think a simply run off like a simple scheme offense?
You can build off of it. There's a lot that I have an issue with the Patriots offense. It is really simple, but if you run it correctly, you can run like 14 different plays off of like one formation. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like, and so then, but to do that, you have to do all the small things correct. So like one of the things that Kurt Warner talks about, Patriots have slot receiver Nelson Aguilar, and then Devontae Parker on the outside on like 15% of their offensive snaps, right? On half the snaps, Nelson Aguilar knows he's not getting the ball, so he's just running straight down the field. Well, that doesn't do anything because you're not actually threatening anybody. The corner's just running behind you. The safety doesn't have to come over and help, so he's down doing something else on somebody else. Yeah. But on Mac Jones's first touchdown pass, you can see they're in that same formation, and Nelson Aguilar runs a great route. He gets inside leverage on the corner, runs straight up the field, and presses the safety. He gets the safety on his heels, and then just runs right across the face of him, and Mac Jones hits him for a touchdown. And it's like if Nelson Aguilar and the Patriots would just take that route, you can run a comeback towards the sideline, a comeback towards the middle. You can run
a route. Yeah,
like you can run all sorts of things off of that one formation. And it's like, it all starts with doing like the simple basic things correct, and they just haven't done it all year. So
yeah. That's an interesting way to put it because I would have thought that maybe it wasn't complex, but I would have thought that would have been an NFL offense is like from this line, like from how this receiver lines up on this side of the field in this formation, he can run the 5-yard in route, the 10-yard out route, the post, a go route. Like I would have figured that would have been just installed in every single offensive playbook. Like,
yeah, but so when you're going from a Josh McDaniels playbook, which is very much that's probably the most complicated playbook in the NFL because you're literally having receivers run straight option routes, and then the quarterback has to
quarterback has to know what the receiver is running based off the zone.
based off of the
people,
coverage. So he has to not only read the coverage, but then read what the receiver is going to do. And that takes the offensive complexity to a whole nother level. Whereas like the Patriots are trying to set up simple reads, like 1-2 reads, not just like one read offense, but like so to take that Nelson Aguilar set and run it again. Okay, so if the safety comes over, right? So like Nelson Aguilar runs that deep post, right? And the safety comes over and is on top of Nelson Aguilar. Now there's no longer a safety there, and you have Devontae Parker on the 10-yard in route, right? Because there's nobody up top.
And he's filling up that space.
And he's filled up the empty space, and you hit him. That's an easy like 1-2 read that the Patriots are trying to install. But then you can set up things like that with play action, and then they're trying to implement RPOs. And not to go on a big rant about the Patriots, but one of the things did against the Jets that really pissed me off. Evan Lazar is a Patriots reporter that is like a big X's and O's guy, and it's like the Patriots were running power formation football, right? Like 5-on-5 running back on linebacker, right? Tight end on linebacker. Running back is kind of like on the safety. They would do that in between the 20s, and they would run the play action super well off that, right? And then they would get into the red zone, and then they would switch it up and go into the shotgun. What the hell are you doing, right?
Yeah.
Like you're running this formation. You're averaging like 5.5 yards a carry. You could hit a play action for like a 20-yard crossing route like that. But no, you switch to shotgun, like you do this stupid like RPO stuff, and then like it totally throws off the rhythm of the offense. And then like the defense now knows you're running RPOs because you're going into shotgun. It's like they're very poorly coached is my point. Like it's
I also think too it goes back to then why are they running RPOs? Because not that I don't think Mac Jones can't move the ball with his feet, like you've shown it enough, but it's not something that you really have to.
It's because the strength of the offensive line.
Yeah.
The things it puts the linebackers in a situation because they can't necessarily come up. And,
hold on, wait. Sorry, I'm thinking of like read options, like
not read options.
Yeah. Sorry, I got it mistaken.
Yeah. Because the linebackers can't come up and press the line of scrimmage as easily. Because if they do, you just throw a slant over the top of them for 8 yards. Like, but then if they don't come up, then you have a 5-on-4 with your offensive line, and you can get 3 to 4 yards relatively easily. And so that's like the point of it. But there's no like consistency. There's no fluidity of actual play calling, which is just frustrating. But again, it leads me to believe that New England is really going to struggle against Miami,
Buffalo.
Well, they play Buffalo again actually. So that's my biggest thing. The Bengals is a really tough matchup for them too. They're just so explosive on offense.
Yeah,
they can't.
Well, it's funny to see. Like, let's quickly talk about before we move on to our final segment, which is the Thursday night football game. But you mentioned the Bengals. I think now, especially with Lamar Jackson going down, I think it's clear that the Bengals, and I don't even know what their schedule is, but I'm confident that they're going to win that division. Because I think they still also have to play the Browns. They're playing the Browns this week. That's a win.
Yeah,
should be.
Should be.
Should be a win.
Somewhat struggles against the Browns.
But
like even
the Browns defense,
the 32-13 loss this year.
Oh, did the Browns beat the Bengals 32-13?
Yeah,
they did do that, didn't they?
Yeah.
Was that in Cleveland? Not that matters. Well, no, that matters a little bit. Yeah,
in Cleveland.
But this Bengals team is definitely different, though. It is absolutely different. When do they play that game? Was it week 5, week 6, or something like that?
I think it was week 8.
They've been kind of on it.
Yeah, week 8. They haven't lost since then.
Yeah, they haven't lost since then. Yeah. I still think that that's going to be fine. I think that
Yeah.
they're going to be okay. Just because that offense now, I think, has been coming off a big win against Kansas City. They have a big win against a big game against Buffalo coming up. But
it's at home too, which is big.
Yeah. So for me, Tennessee is going to be the 4th seed now at the AFC South. And it's going to come down really just kind of how everything shuffle up. Kansas City has now lost to both Buffalo and Cincinnati. So I think it's going to kind of come down to, really that Buffalo-Cincinnati game. Because if Buffalo can win that Cincinnati game, I think they have the 1 seed locked up. As long as they don't blow any, lose any random game, Kansas City can get a better record than them. But which of these teams, these 3 teams, do you think has the best chance, or is going to go on and go on to the Super Bowl? Because these arguably are the 3 best teams.
Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo.
Yeah, I would say outside of Philadelphia, these are the 3 best teams in the NFL, in my opinion. Kansas City's lost to both, but at the same time, though, they can easily go and beat.
They barely lost to both.
They barely lost to both. It was a back and forth game.
So I actually think Kansas City is the best team of the 3. Patrick Mahomes is on a whole nother level at the moment.
He's MVP. I know what everyone talks like. Jalen Hurts could win the MVP, but it's hard for me to not see Patrick Mahomes as the MVP. Jalen Hurts has had a great season. Absolutely deserves it.
This is where, I think the Aaron Rodgers effect kind of comes in, because Aaron Rodgers is just so good, and he makes so many ridiculous throws that it's it's sometimes I feel like when it comes to the voting, people find it hard not to vote for Mahomes, for Rodgers. And I think now Mahomes is that new Aaron Rodgers, just because he's so freaking good. He's at times indefensible.
Yeah, it is insane to watch, and I think Hurts can. I don't know if Hurts has that. Well, no one has what Mahomes has, but this is Hurts. This is just his 2nd year, right? Or his 3rd year?
I want to say 3rd year.
I'm trying to remember.
But he sat for a whole year. I want to say it's his 3rd year.
Yeah, because he came out with Joe Burrow in them, right? Because they lost to Joe Burrow
lit him up, and
so this is 3rd year. So, but anyways, that's a separate conversation though. But I agree. I think Kansas City, because it's kind of one of those. It's yes, Kansas City has lost to they lost to Buffalo earlier this year, but Buffalo hasn't beaten them in a game that truly matters. So it's they're going to have to go. They might have to go to Buffalo to beat them. But since has beaten them in those games over these past 2 years, and now Cincinnati arguably is even better because now their offensive line seems to be playing. Great.
They didn't coming back from some injuries too,
and they didn't have Joe Mixon in this past game. I really think if Cincinnati can get everything going, and what's crazy to me though is that the Bengals team can still improve because they still need to work on a secondary. Secondary is still not.
It's playing better. It's playing better.
Yeah,
but
this might be one of the best playoffs that we have seen in a long time because all 14 teams outside of the NFC South division winner. But even then, let's say it's Tom Brady. Let's say the Buccaneers win the division. It's still Tom Brady in the playoffs.
It's so hard to beat Tom Brady in January. So Tom Brady, I want to say, has his average season is 12 wins and 4 losses, right? I think that's his average season.
Average,
yeah. And I say 16 games because there's only been 2 seasons.
That's
17.
fine.
Yeah. His win percentage come January and February is 85%. It's insane. How many games he's won in January and February. Now he doesn't have the team to do it this year, but still, it's Tom Brady in January.
Well, that'll be a whole nother fun conversation. If it pans out that way. Tampa Bay beat Dallas earlier in the year. I know it was week 1. A lot has changed since then, but still. But for me, yeah, it's so tough. I almost would have to lean towards Cincinnati. We'll have a better picture of that after Buffalo and Cincinnati game in a couple weeks from now. But Cincinnati right now might be playing the best football because Buffalo seems to be inconsistent, especially in the red zone. So, but let's wrap this episode up here and let's talk about the Thursday night football game between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Rams. We've already talked a lot about the Raiders this episode, and we have not talked about the Los Angeles Rams a lot this episode, and that's for good reasons. I just think the Raiders are going to win this one. They honestly, the only good player on that team now that's starting is Aaron Donald. Like, that's it. Jalen Ramsey has been playing awful. No one else really on that offense has been playing that well. They had a good game last week against Seattle, which they almost beat. But that's still a division game a team that they know very well against. This Raiders team, I mean, Devontae Adams is going to absolutely burn Jalen Ramsey over and over and over again. And this is where I said it. Where I think the Raiders will definitely target someone in the draft is they do need to have another good second receiver. Yes, Hunter Renfrow is hurt, as you said. He's their slot guy. But they need to go draft another guy. And there's going to be a lot of guys, a lot of depth, second and third round for them to pick up some guys in this draft. But as of right now, Devontae Adams is still having a great year. Him and Derek Carr have had a solid connection. Josh Jacobs, he's on my fantasy team, my dynasty team that I've absolutely really enjoyed having him on. He's having a career year, 1,250 something yards now. It's got to be close to 1,300, leading the league in rushing.
By far, I think he's like the next closest person is like 120, 130.
Well, it's Derrick Henry, but teams now though are starting to make the Titans like, if you're going to beat us, you have to throw the ball. Like, Derrick Henry's not going to go run for 150 yards anymore. So I think over the past couple of weeks, Derrick Henry's only had 30 to 40 yards of rushing a game because teams are like, Derrick Henry's not going to beat us, anyways, I just think it's just going to be a steady dose of Derek Carr to Josh Adams, to Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, Josh Adams. Yeah. And a lot of check down passes. Foster Moreau's come on and has been a steady receiver as well with Darren Waller being out. There's just this offense, I think, is just going to overpower the Rams defense. Tampa Bay scored with 3 minutes left. And too late. You never know. They still got 3 timeouts. But in the Rams, on the flip side, don't really have anyone that can compete for them. So the Rams, the Lions, like I said, the Lions are really rooting for the Raiders because they just want to see the Rams keep losing, keep going down and down. Who would have thought that, like, everyone going into the season probably would have figured that the Lions would have a top 5 pick? Who would have thought that it would have been the Rams? It was the Rams pick that they traded for. But that's just kind of my analysis. Do you have anything different really to kind of talk about that with the Raiders?
The only thing is, like, I think this game could somewhat turn into a shootout. I just don't think the Rams have the weapons to, like, compete in a shootout because I think both defenses suck. And it's like, who has the better offensive line? Okay, the Raiders. Who has the better weapons? Okay, the Raiders. I mean, the quarterback difference is marginal at best.
Even then, the deficiencies that the Raiders have on defense, I still think that I just don't think that the Rams can exploit it.
No.
And with the short week, and you've said this, and it's been pretty consistent all throughout the season, but the team with the more talent is the one that's going to normally be the more explosive team. Yeah. And the Raiders just have so much more talent. Yeah. And like what they've been able to do with Josh Jacobs this season, like just consistently running the ball, and something they haven't been able to do during this time. So I know you might not be the biggest Josh McDaniels fan, but
I love Josh McDaniels as a coordinator. I'm not sold on him as a head coach. Yeah.
What he has brought though to that offense has been that running game, and that was the thing that they really needed because everyone knows Derek Carr can go and throw for 4,500 yards a season, no problem, but they couldn't run the ball. Now they have this dual threat offense. Devontae Adams out wide, and then you got Josh Jacobs that can run the ball up the middle for 115 yards a game, almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
Not almost guaranteed, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough to defend against.
That's like, so one of the Patriots released Jakob Johnson, and then as soon as they did, the Raiders signed him. And one of the things that Josh McDaniels does so well is he keeps defenses honest. And even if they're not running the ball effectively, which they have just about every game this year, they are just like hammering the football with the fullback. Not running the ball, but blocking. And they've done it more than I've ever seen the Patriots do it. And the Patriots did it a lot. And Josh Jacobs is having a career year because of it. But Josh McDaniels is just setting up good matchups. I mean, it's simple numbers, and Josh McDaniels is just taking advantage of it. They have not had the same success in the passing game. And I think that's why if they don't make the playoffs, I would call the season a failure for them. Because their lack of ability to throw the football on a consistent basis. They hit big plays every now and then. But they don't have like the 8-yard, like the 4-yard, 8-yard, 12-yard play. They have the 40-yarder to Devontae Adams. And I think that is partially due to Hunter Renfrow. But they hit home runs, right? They strike out 3/4 of the time, but when they touch the ball, it's a home run, right? Yeah. So that's kind of
and they have had some injuries this year. As you talked about, Hunter Renfrow's out. Darren Waller has not been playing at all, which would have been huge additions to have if they were healthy, because especially the way Hunter Renfrow ended the season last year. But that being said, that it's Devontae Adams is still Devontae Adams. And so
incomplete pass on 3rd and 17.
Nah, see that? Why'd you do that? You just run the ball.
You just run it. You make them use the final timeout.
Yeah, make them use that final timeout.
Because 2:47 with the 2-minute warning and a timeout. You're going to give the ball back to Tom Brady, who, by the way, scored a touchdown in 14 seconds against.
I don't know. Even then, the Taysom Hill should have caught that. Anyway, sorry, we're watching the end of the game. So, but yeah, that's to me. I think the Raiders are going to win this one. I think they'll win by about 10 points. I'd say 30-20. I think it's going to be the final score. So
30-20. Yeah, I would agree. I was going to say 27-17.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like
it's all the same.
Yeah. So that for me is kind of what wraps up like that game. 2 terrible defenses, 1 inconsistent offense, and 1 absolutely decimated offense with the Rams. Like just no explosive potential at all.
No.
So, all right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this episode of the Tracy Takes. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so we can ping you every time we go live. We try to go live every Monday and Tuesday around 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. So go ahead and come on back tomorrow for this week's picks. We'll see y'all next